What's going on, everyone? So today I'm going to show you how I built this website with React. So let me give you a quick tour of what I'm going to be building for today. So first off, we have the hero section, and this is actually an image slider. So I want to go here, click the next arrow, that it will change the pictures, and then we have a little animation on change. Also, we can go backwards as well. And this is also automated, but I commented out, but let me just uncomment this really quick for you so you can see the little automation too. So like you don't have to just manually click in here. So now, no hands, I'm not touching the screen. Every 3 seconds, the actual thing will go ahead and switch the picture. And also while it's switching, if you wanted to, like, hey, I want to go back, and once it goes, you can go back like this. It'll still continue to run just nice and smoothly like a typical image slider that's automated. So as we progress down here, let me just show you some more sections. And currently we have this right here, but since I already refreshed the page, let me just do this one more time for you. Let me show you guys a little animation on scroll right here. And then we just got a little typical information section here. And then also we got some little homes and then some little design where it's a little offset from the original picture over here. So it's a cool little design I wanted to implement here. And then as we continue, I got another image fading in from the right, as well as some more content here. So this is another cool little design I wanted to show you how I built as well. And then we can continue again, and this is a reusable component. So this is essentially the first information section I showed you, except this one's just reversed in the order, as well as has different images as content too. And then also we can continue down here, and then we have the footer. So this is a different footer design I wanted to implement. And if you did not notice, if I scroll back up, the actual navbar, when I scroll down, it changes color as well. Also, if I were to change it on a page that's not the home page, then it will be permanently the solid color that I set, which is like a kind of darkish brown gold color. And then also we can go through different pages as well. You can see here, you got these different pages here. And also we can reuse this image slider. So this is essentially the same exact component, just different data inside of this. So you can see these are different images, and this one only has 3. And then we have the footer down here. And then also if I go back home, and I can just inspect the page just to show you, I made this responsive as well. So let's just go here, click on like this Moto G4, we got that. And also I created my own custom little icon menu bar, hamburger menu logo here. So you can click on this, you got the typical menus, and then click off of it, switches the pages as well. You get the point here. And then also we can scroll, do the same thing with the sliders, just like on desktop, and we can see all these animations too. And basically all the content is aligned nice on mobile. And then we have here too as well. And then we can continue going down, and that's pretty much here. And if I want to go to like the smallest screen, which is the Galaxy Fold, you can see that everything's like this. And I have the animation set to only run 1 time, just so that it can be faster. And when I'm showing you, it only does it just once. But you can also uncomment that out and make it run every time you scroll up or down. And then again, here it is like this. And then we can just switch to, like, let's do iPad. You can see here, same exact concept. And this is pretty much what we're going to be creating for today. So this video took a lot of time and effort to create. So for this video, this is going to be the first section showing you guys how to get started in creating this design. But if you guys want to access the complete source code as well as the full-on video showing everything included, then you guys can go ahead in the description to my website and check that out there to get access for that. And that helps support the channel so I continue making content like this. But without further ado, let's hop into our code editors. Let me show you how we made this. Alright, so the first thing you're going to need to do is open up your terminal. So if you created a React app before, then you already know how to do it. But essentially just go in and search on your computer for your terminal. And then you can go ahead and navigate to wherever you plan on creating this project. So I just have this folder already here for me. So I'm just going to go ahead and type in on my terminal npx and then space and then say create -react -app. And then I'll just call this whatever, you can name this whatever you want to. I'll just call this React, and then we'll say real estate, and then I'll just put version 1. This is just the way I name it, but again, feel free to name this whatever you want to. And then I'll just go ahead and press enter. And then once that finishes loading, I'll see you once it's complete. All right, so it just finished loading. So now we can go ahead and actually navigate into our project. So in order to do that, you can just type in CD and then whatever the name of it is. So I'll just say React real estate-v1. Now press enter. And I am using VS Code, so I'm going to type in this line right here, just say code dot, and this will automatically open it up. If you have VS Code, then you can go ahead and do that and set it up if you haven't already. And if you're using a different code editor, then go ahead and just open it up and then drag your project into your code editor so we can get started. So now let me just go ahead, I'll just exit off this really quick. And let me just bring this over to the side so I can bring the website in the background over too. So let me just drag this down here. Let me just click this and just drag it over. And let me just shrink this. And then here, I'll just bring this over here so we can see everything. So it looks good about there. All right, so now I can go here into the SRC. And then here's the default files that we already have created because we created with the React app. So I'm gonna actually go ahead and open up my terminal on VS Code. So little shortcut, we can press the Command and J, and on my keyboard it opens it up. I also believe Control backtick also does it as well. And then here, let's just go ahead and start this up really quick. So let's just go ahead, and I'm using Yarn, so I just type in yarn start. If you have npm, then you just replace yarn with npm. And let me just go ahead and type this in, and then it'll say an error on my screen. If you don't have this error, you can ignore this. But if you do have this error, you need to copy this line right here. And I'll just copy this. And then on the root of your project, you just right click and click new file. And I'll just create a .env file here. And I'll just go in and paste that line of code. And then I'll just go ahead and run yarn start again. So again, if you don't have that error, then it would have automatically loaded up for you. But here also, since I already have this current version up, I can just press Y. So yours is most likely not going to show that since you don't have a React app up right now. And it opened up here, so let me just bring this over really quick. And this is what you should see right now, the beautiful React logo spinning, and pretty much everything is working. So let me exit off here. We can go in the app.js, and we can just get rid of all of this right now. So let me just go here, and then yeah, let's get rid of this too. And I'll just create a fragment for now, just for like filler. And I can just put here and just put what's up. And we can save this. So now it looks like everything is good and working. So the first thing I want to do is actually get rid of some files. So right now we can just get rid of this logo.svg. So delete this. And then here I can just erase this from this line. So let me save that. And then next, let me go and let's see if it's in the index.js. And it looks like there's nothing here. So let's try to refresh this and see if the error is fixed. So okay, error is working or it's gone. And then here we can just get rid of this index.css on the index.js file really quick. So I'll go here and just save it. And then also I'm gonna delete this index.css because we're not gonna need this. Also the app.css, we can go ahead and delete this too, because we're going to be using stock components. So I can just go ahead and go back to app.js, delete all of this, and just hit save. And this is currently what we have right now. And we're eventually going to need to import some things in the top. So for now, let's just go ahead and let's actually make sure if you don't have this extension. So go over here to this icon, and then make sure if you type in ES7 and click on this, that you have that ES7 and is by this guy with the 2 million plus downloads. And this essentially allows us to have shortcut keys that we can just type in and it automatically finishes it for us. So for instance, import from React, we can just say imr and just press tab and it creates it for us without having to manually type it out. So let me just save that really quick, and then let's just refresh, make sure everything's working, so it looks good. So now what we can do is just start actually creating our project files. So let's start with a components folder. So over the SRC, new folder, and let's go ahead and call this one components. And then also I'm gonna have my data, I just put in a data folder for organization purposes. And then if you wanted to do whatever you make sense for you. So actually, let me go back, new folder. And I'll do this for tutorial sake too, so it's just easier to follow. But again, if you have a different way of creating data and showing it on your screen, then go ahead and refactor this after. But This way is probably the easiest to follow along. And then also we'll have an images folder too. So let's just say images. And then let's create one more real quick. And let's just call this one pages. So that looks like all the folders that we're gonna need for now. And then what we can do is pretty much start adding our components. So the first one we're gonna do is create our navbar. So let's right click, components, new file, let's call this navbar.js. And I'm gonna do all the styles within this file. You could create a navbar elements or whatever you wanna call it, essentially a style file where you keep all of your styles in there and then just export them from the styles page. But I think for tutorial sake, I think it's easier to follow along in the same file. And then if you wanted to separate it after, then you can go ahead and do that. So the first thing is, since we just downloaded that snippets extension, we can go ahead and just do RAFCE and then just press tab. And it creates a React arrow function with the name that you have of your file. And then we can just go in here and just call this, say h1, say navbar. I'll save it, and then we can check it, make sure everything's working by just passing this in our app.js. So I'll just say navbar, and then if you press enter before you, when you see it's highlighted, it just auto imports it. Also, you can press Control Space, press enter, it auto does it as well. And if for some reason it's not working, then you can just gonna have to manually type it, import navbar from components/navbar, and then it should say navbar. So it looks like everything's working fine. So now what we can do is we're gonna need to install a few things. And since we are on VS Code, we can just click the plus sign here, and then I can just go ahead and add the additional things I need to install. So if you're using npm, you just do npm install. But I have yarn, so with yarn you do yarn add. And we're gonna install a few things. So let's just go ahead and do styled-components. Also, I'm gonna have react-router-dom. And then also I'll do react-icons. And that should be good for now. If we need anything else, we'll just install it after. But now we can just press enter. And then once that's finished, we can actually check our package.json just to make sure everything installed properly. So if I click it right now, it's currently just showing the defaults. But once everything starts installing, it'll update. So we can see here, now we got React Router, we got style components, and we got React icons. And if you have your own icons, which I actually end up creating a custom icon for the mobile menu, but for the rest of the ones, I just use this React icons here. But if you wanted to use your own icons, then you don't have to worry about this one, but this just makes it easier. So now since we have these two different options, we can just delete this second one since we're not using it anymore. And then it just brings us back to our original one that we had on our terminal. So now we can just pretty much go back to the navbar, and here we can actually start creating the style components. So here let's do import styled from style components. And then in order to display this, I'm just going to create the nav. So if you've never used style components before, it's not too difficult to follow along. It's basically just CSS with JavaScript, and it has similar method in terms of Sass, like nesting. So it's not too difficult. If you know already CSS, then you can pretty much get this in just a couple of minutes. But basically the way you do it is you say const, and then you name it whatever you want to name it. So for instance, I want to call this a nav, and it's capitalized, and then you say equals styled, and then you say dot whatever you want this tag to be. So if you want it to be a div, you say a div, h1, p tag, etc. For this one, I just want this to be the nav, and then you do double backticks, and then we go inside the backticks, and this is where you add in your style. So for instance, I'll just say like height will be 60 pixels, and let me just set a background color to just be red, just for your visual. And the way to actually show this is you actually have to pass it in. So instead of a div, you would replace it with the name you called it, which was nav. I called it. And then here, you do the same here. And this will essentially become a nav tag. And then you just save it, and it should be 60 pixels in height with the background red. So you can see right there, pretty easy. So now let's just go ahead and let me just finish styling. So let's go here, and actually let's wait out because you won't be able to see what's happening unless there's actual content. So let's actually create the rest of our style components. So the first thing is here, I'll just put this a logo, or I call this a logo. So just a logo. And essentially this is going to be where you'd put your logo for your site. But since I don't have a logo, I just typed in text. So I just said ELIXR. And then under that, let's go ahead and we're going to create menu bars too. But since we're not doing the mobile yet, I'll just add it in right now and then we'll add it later. So I'll just say menu bars, and that's just essentially the hamburger menu on mobile. So if I go back, this is just like a custom image, I had it here. And pretty much after this, we can go and underneath here, we can say, I'll call this one nav menu. And this nav menu is essentially going to wrap all of the actual menu links. So we're gonna actually have to create a data file for this, and then I'm gonna map through it. Again, you could hard code these too if you'd like to, but this way is just, I'd say, makes more sense if you wanted to ever update it. So here, let's actually go and create these style components first, and then we can go ahead and create the data file after and then map through it. So let's just say const, and then just say const logo, because I named it that, equals to styled, and this is essentially going to be a link from React Router DOM. So if you ever use React Router, then you probably already know, but essentially this is just a way to navigate between pages. So here I just say imports link from React Router DOM right there. And then in order to pass in this type of value, you can't just say dot, like div or dot link, because link's not essentially a proper tag. Link would be equivalent, would be an a tag, but since it's specific to React Router, you just do parentheses and then you just type in the link, the word here, so that it knows that logo is essentially a link from React Router. And then you do double backticks, and here essentially we can just say color, just hashtag whites for now. We'll add more styles later. And the last two we have is menu bars and nav menu. So let me just go ahead and add those in. So let's say const menu bars equals to styled, and this is going to actually be a image, but for now let's just keep this as a div, and then we can go ahead and update this later. So let's just go and say, actually this is actually going to be an icon, so let's just do .I and then just do double backticks. And then another little shortcut, you can do shift alt down arrow, and I believe we have nav menu is the other one, so let's just say nav menu. And you don't even have to add styles in. So like here, I'll just make this a div, and then I'll just press enter and I'll save it. And as long as you have it out there, then you can actually display it. But for now, this is going to be here temporarily. And now here it's saying we cannot use a link outside of a router. So in order to fix this, we can actually go to our index.js and we can wrap our entire application with this. So if you use React Router, then you've probably seen something similar to this, but basically we can just say imports. And then it's normally by default browser. So browser router. And I'm going to import it as just the name router. That'll be from React-Router DOM. And then I can go in this React-strict mode right underneath it. And I can just pass in router. And then put the closing tag on the bottom of app. And if I save this, and I refresh, now you can see that the error has gone away. So I can exit off here. So now we can actually go ahead and let's create the data. So let's go over to our data and just right click new file. And again, this is just the way I did it for this example. But again, if you have a better way or a different way of showing data, then feel free to do that. Also, if you want to just hard code it in too, you could. But here, let's just make sure I go new file. And I'll just call this menu data.js, press enter. And then here just say export const. We'll just do menu lowercase data, capital D, it'll be equal to an array. And then here we'll just pass in, so curly braces are different values. So here I'll just say, I'll just call this the title. So this can just be about, and then we can just say our link. And this would just be whatever your link is, so I'll just say /about. And then just do a little comma here. And I think I forgot the comma after about. That's why it's showing me my error. And then I'll just do Shift Alt down arrow twice. And also, if you're wondering like how is my thing autosave, there's a couple things I have installed, such as Prettier. So if you want to go to extensions here and download that, then you can. And there's also a bunch of tutorials online that shows you how to set it up too. So you can go ahead and do that. And then let's go ahead and change this next one. This about, let's do homes, and then I'll just do slash homes here. And this last one, let's just call this rentals. I mean, you can name this whatever you want to, but here we'll just do rentals. I'll just save this. So this is pretty simple, basic array data, but again, if it gets more complicated, you can add new things here. But for now, we're pretty much done for that. So all we need to do now is map through this data and then display it onto the screen. So the way I did this is I basically, here's our nav menu. It looks like it sub closes because of my setup, but here you want to make sure you have it with opening and closing tags. And then inside this data, so what we do is do curly braces. And then I'm going to say the data file I named it. So whatever you named it, I call it menu data. And then we're going to say dot map. So we're going to go through the data file, and then we'll do an arrow function. So you say parentheses, arrow, and then curly brace, and then press enter. And then in here, I'm going to pass in two values. I'm going to say item, and then this is just index. Because for these values, you can name this whatever you want to, but the first one is just essentially, you would say item dot whatever you call your data. So like item dot title or item dot link, and then the index is just a key, so that React doesn't yell at you. But pretty much here, I just call these nav menu links. So we still need to create these stock components, but these are going to be links, and then links have a to value. So just like the a tag in HTML with the href, this is the equivalent of saying to, and then you said equal to the path. So like for instance, this is actually a link, so I should have put to equals to something, which I just put the slash for the home page. And then here, I'm just going to say curly braces. I'm going to say the value I called item. And then I want this to be the link on the data file. So you do item.link. And notice how the actual item word actually gets highlighted. And then we'll pass in the key. So I'll just say index. And then I'll close it. And then I'll press enter. And then in between here, I want this to actually display the word. So about us, home page, rentals. So again, you do curly braces, item.title, and then you're pretty much set. So all thing we need to do is just say const nav menu links equals to style dots, or actually style parentheses link, since it's a link, and then we'll just do backticks. And I'll save it, and this should see, let's see, menu data is not defined. So the reason it's saying that is because we actually have to import this into our project. So here I just say import curly brace menu data, and it's going to be from, and since we're in the components folder, we need to navigate outside of it, so I'm going to do double dot slash, and now we can see all of our projects. So we have the data folder, and then we just have the menu data. So I save it now, and then it's going to say menu data is still not defined. So if I refresh the page, it should go away, which it did, and now you can see that it's there. Well, it's not visible, but you can actually, let me see if I can highlight some of this. Yeah, let me actually start styling it now so you can actually see this, because technically you probably won't be able to see this. So let's actually do this for the nav menu links. Let's just set the color to, let's do hashtag FFF. Let's change this background to 00 or hashtag 00. Save it. And it looks like Navbar is still there. So let's get rid of this H1. Should not be there. Save that there. And then maybe if I bring this on desktop, you'll see the nav. So it's not there yet. So let's actually start styling this now so that we can actually see the links. So here under height, I'm gonna just say display. I'll say flex. And let's see. Might be an issue. Looks like it's saying I have an issue in my right here, return the word value function. So let me check. Let me make sure there's no errors in the console. Yes, it looks like I might have mistyped something. So let me make sure. Oh yeah, that's a big issue. Since we're using curly braces, we're not actually returning. So we have to say return. But instead, we can do parentheses. So using arrow functions. And then I can just, it basically returns. And then that error should go away. So boom, there we go. And now you can see our links. Okay, so there we go. Links are showing, and again, these were the nav links about home and rentals. You can see it actually updates in the URL too. So pretty much almost done. We still need to create a button, but I'll do that after. Let's first actually style this really quick. So let's go here. Let me do Command J, and let's go here now. Let's just do justify content, and I want to do space between. So I'll save it. And it basically spreads them out. And then once we add the button, it'll essentially spread it out evenly. So it'll be nice and clean. Padding, let's just do top and bottom 1 rem. And 1 rem is defaulted as 16 pixels unless you set a specific value globally, then you can change that default size. But here I'm just going to use the default setting. And then left and right, I'll just do 2 rem. So here. And z-index, just to make sure that it's above everything, I just put 100. Then also I want to make sure the position is fixed. And let's just set the width to 100%. Save it here. And then for logo, that looks fine. Also, I can just italicize this really quick. So I'll just say font, style, italic. And here's a little cool trick because we're essentially using 2 links, the nav menu links and then the logo. They have basically the same exact styles minus the italic. So cool thing with style components is you can actually pass in, think of these are like custom styles just for particular pieces on your website where you can reuse them for other components. So for instance, I'm going to say const, and I'll call this one just a nav link, right, for this example. And you can say equals to CSS. So this isn't actually a like HTML tag. And then you just do double backticks. And then here you just pass in whatever styles you want this word nav link to actually have. So for instance, I want this to have color to be white. So make sure I put everything here. I want the display, I want to make sure it's display to flex. I want to align the items, make sure everything's centered. Also I want to say the padding, I want to make it 0, 1 rem. And then height, I want to make it 100%. And then make sure I have cursor as pointer. So right now it's currently faded out because it's not being used. But like for instance, if you have a component that has a very, very similar styles, you could just straight up pass it in by saying $ curly brace, the name you call it, so nav link. So if I save this now, is essentially, you're not gonna really see too much of a difference, but it's gonna say CS undefined 2. So that's actually, way to add this is you say, for the stock component, say comma, curly brace CSS, and then at the end, make sure you put / macro. So we'll save it, and notice how it fits nice and snug right there. And then we can actually go and do, you can add this one too, text decoration to be none. And it gets rid of the underline. So we can actually pass that in here for the nav menu links too. So I can just go and erase this color, $ curly brace nav link, and just save it. And it's basically, it just added these styles onto here, which if I scroll it out, can't really see right now because of my screen, but once we add the additional button, it'll be fixed. But for now, let's see, we also have the nav menu, so I should go in the nav menu really quick, and let's just say display flex, align items center, and then let's just save it for now. And then there's another thing I added, but we can add this later if you wanted to. I just had it centered it, so I did a margin right of -48, but let me add that later. But also, since we're still on mobile, I want to make sure you can see this, but we're going to add media queries too. But for now, let's just keep that off. What I first want to do is actually create the button, because that's the missing piece to make this like full width. So if I go here, it's like just chilling, right? Because it's spaced between. So let's actually go here to components, create a new file, and I'll just call this button.js. And here, this is essentially a component, aka a button that I'm going to reuse across the site, so I don't have to sit there and retype every single button I create and style it every single time. So over here, I'm just going to say import styled from code style dash components, and then also import link from react dash router DOM. So this button is actually going to be a link. Again, if you end up needing a button, you might have to create a custom one. But for this sake, the buttons on this design just link to other pages. So again, you can refactor this later if you'd like to. But since we're just going to use this in other places, I'm going to have to export this. And then I'll say export const, call it just button, equal to styled, and there's going to be a link from React Router DOM, double backticks, and then pretty much here is where I can add in some really interesting properties. So if you've seen any other tutorials on style components, then you probably have seen where you'd pass in properties to update specific colors. So for here, I'm going to say background. For the background, I'm going to pass in custom properties. So I'm going to say $, curly brace, parenthesis, curly brace. So I'm essentially destructuring this. This is normally like props dot whatever your value is, but since I'm doing the destructuring, it's basically just the word. So here I'm just going to call this primary, and then go outside the curly brace parentheses and press and turn this into an arrow function. And then here I have a parentheses, and then this is where I pass in our logic. So basically, if primary is true, I'm going to use ternary operators. So essentially if else statements, except this is question mark. So if I have a value where primary is set to true, then I want to change the color to hashtag 000D1A. Else, I want to change it to CD853F. So I'll close it, and then I'll save this really quick because I want to show you like the styles right now. So if I go back to Navbar, and then we can actually create this button really quick. So here in the Navbar, under the nav menu, I'll just call this, I just wrap this with a div so I can do the spacing. So I just call this nav btn. You can call this like btn wrap, whatever you want to. And then here I'm going to pass in the actual button component we just created. So when it highlights it, I press enter. And then it should have auto imported just like this. You see right there. And then since this is a link, I'm going to say it's going to be equal to, I'll just put slash contact. You can do is actually whatever you want to. And then I'll close it, and then I'll put contact us and then hit save. So right now it's going to say nav btn is not defined. So let's go here. Let's just say const nav btn equal to styled.div with the double backticks. And then let's just do a flex on it really quick. So let's go inside here. Let's just say display flex. Let's say align dash items to be centered. And then let's just set the margin dash right. Let's do 24 pixels. And let's save it really quick. So right now it looks like this. So if I go now back to the button, and then let's go and just add the rest of the styles really quick. So over here, let me just say white dash base. I'll just say no wrap. And then let's just do outline will be none. Border will be none. I'm going to set a min width of it just to make sure. I'll just put 100 pixels. And I want the max width to be no bigger than 200. If you plan on creating larger buttons, you can obviously take this off. Make sure we have a cursor pointer. Text decoration will be none since it's a link. Also, we're going to have a animation on here, so I'm going to have to set a transition. Will just be 0.3s. And then let's make sure everything inside of it, because I plan on adding icons to one of the buttons, so I have to use display flex to center everything. But for the rest of the buttons, you probably won't have to worry about that. Then just like content will just be centered, and then align items will be centered too. So I say this now, it's not much going to change because we want to actually add in the remaining values. So I'll do these at the bottom so you can see them. So the padding, we're going to do the same concept where we pass in the props. So $, curly brace, parenthesis curly brace. And then I'll just call this big. So if you want the button to be larger, pass the arrow function. We'll say big is true. Then I want the padding to be 16 pixels by 40 pixels. Else, I want the padding to be 14 pixels by 24 pixels. Now again, these are just ones I put. You can change them, put whatever you like to. And right now the background is essentially the same color as the navbar, so you can't really see it. But I'll be in there in a second. And then here for the color of the font, so I'm gonna say color, the same concept, where $ curly brace, parenthesis curly brace. And then I want to say if I have the primary colors true, I'll do the arrow with the parentheses. I'm going to say, so primary is true, question mark, return the white text, else colon, return 000D1A. Save it. Essentially the button disappeared. So let's actually go to navbar. Let's go to top. Let's change this to red really quick, just so you can see it. And now you can see here we got the color, and currently it's like darkish. So now let's go and let's change the font size, and let's just say $ curly brace parenthesis curly brace. If the button is big, arrow function parentheses, and big is true, then I want the size to be 20 pixels. I also want it to be 14 pixels. So let's go here and then save it. And it's basically, it's false, so it's gonna just maintain like that. So here it looks like this, and then I have a little, so with stock components you can do hover, so like in : hover. And then here I can just say transform, translate, and I want it just to move up Y slightly, and I'll just put -2 pixels here. So now if I hover, let me refresh. Can't really see anything because there's no really background yet. So let's make sure we pass in the values, and also let me check the console. There's no errors here. So I'll just make sure I go back home. So if I go to navbar, and then if I go to the button and just say primary equals to true, now we can see that the button actually changes. And it looks like the hover is not applying. So let me make sure I did everything properly. Yep, that's why I just mistyped. Should be like this. So save it. So now we can see it looks like this. And then if we go in, drag it all the way out, it currently looks like that. So right now it's like, what in the world is going on? So here, also the navbar, let's go and reset the, let's put a margin of -48 pixels on the nav menu here. So let's just say margin dash right -48 pixels. And this is just the way I have it based off of the amount of menu items I have to make it more centered. And right now it's off because we need to reset this too. So let's go and create a global style. So here, let's just go to src, new file, and let's just call this global styles.js. Now in this global styles, let's go here. Let me just say import, and then let's say create global style. And if you've read the docs on stock components, you can read more about it. But essentially this is just adding styles across the whole sites. And then I'll just say from stock components. And then here I'm going to say const global style equal to create global style double backticks. And then I'll just set the reset, and I'll just say margin 0, padding 0, box sizing will be border dash box, and the font family, I'm gonna do Montserrat, comma, sans serif. So right now, technically the fonts isn't actually in there yet, so we have to actually add this too as well to our app.js. But also I want to add this because we have animations too, and this is a way to prevent certain issues with the animations when that happens. So I'm going to say overflow-x to be hidden, and then here we can just say export defaults global style. So save it here. And then app.js, I'll just pass this in. So it'll be global style. So let me make sure I spelled it. Yeah, global style. Import to the top automatically. We'll save it. And now you can see that we have our Navbar. Looks much better. Now there's still an issue with the fact that the alignment doesn't look right. And also, yeah, let me make sure. Let's see, let's go to Navbar.js. And it looks like we're missing, might be missing some styles here really quick. Let me just double check. So I'll go up here, and currently it looks like we have, I think it should be on the nav menu. So nav menu, let me check it really quick. We got the flex, center, margin, right. So maybe I have to add in additional stuff really quick, but for right now, let's go ahead and actually get this Montserrat fonts, because right now it's not looking the way exactly how I want it to be. So let me go and show you how to add that to React. So here I just bring it up really quick. So I just Googled Montserrat Google Fonts. So here pretty much it's just Google Fonts if you've used it before. And I'm here right there. And then I just want to get the 400. And then I also want to get, let me ask really quick. I want the 700. And now, let me make sure, where did the, should be here, yeah. So now I want to go and let's just select this link section right here. Just select it, copy this, and then go into your public folder, index.html, and it says here to just basically pass it into your head documents, or heads right there. So I'll just pass this right above the title so everyone can follow along. I'll save it and then go back, and we're pretty much good to go. So notice how the logo changes back now. So it looks nice and clean. And then we have it like this. So it looks like the, I'm not sure why it's looking like that. So let's inspect the page really quick. And let's check out what happened here. So something's clearly not, it's not aligning it properly. Oh, I found out one thing I did forget to add is the menu bars. Add a style really quick. So let's just say display none. Let me just save it. And let's refresh and let's see how this looks right now. So now it works nice and clean, because currently it was here. It just didn't have anything styled on it. So in terms of that, we just need to add the menu bars so you can see this. So right now what I want to do is for the nav menu, let's do this. So let's go nav menu, and with stock components you can actually add media queries nested in it, kind of like Sass, where you say media screen, and I'll just say max width of 768 pixels, and then here I'll just basically display none. So these disappear. And then also I'd like to do this to the button as well. So for the nav btn, I'll just try to copy and paste this code here, save it. So the last thing that is missing is the menu bars. So I created a custom SVG that I'm going to use for this. So I'm going to go here, and let me just drag this in really quick. Just go to images, drag this in. So if you didn't want to do this, you could just import a React icon. But here, let me just go in, and now let's go and import this image actually at the top. So let's go up here. Then I'll just say import bars is what I'm going to call this, from / images / bars.svg. So I'll save it right now. So in case you don't have this image, you could also create one from scratch, but there's another way where, for instance, if I go here, so I just Googled really quick React icons, and I just typed in bars, but it's probably gonna lead me to the main. And then if you just type in bars on this site, you can actually click this one, and then you can just say imports, and then you curly brace, paste this in from React-icon / and this one's FA. And then if you wanted to, you could replace this value. So I go here, just say FA bars. I save it. And then if I just straight up, let's add some styling really quick in here. So for at media screen and max width of 768 pixels, we can just say display, let's just do block. And then so right now you can see it's working, right? So then the rest of the CSS I'm gonna add will just be for the image SVG I have, but since in case you don't have that SVG, I just wanted to show you this alternative where you just do it like this. But if you do have the original image I created, you can use this one instead. So again, keep this if you don't have your own bars image. So I'm going to use this with it because I have a custom design. So I say import bars. And then here, I just put menu bars dot I because it's the icon. And then it'd be essentially the same concepts. The only difference is here is I need to set this inside of the menu bar. So I just put background image. Now you can ignore this if you the background image and size, you can ignore these values if you're using just the regular React icons. So I'm gonna say URL for this one, parenthesis $. Actually, I'm gonna go here, parenthesis $, curly brace, and then the value I named it, which was bars. Save it here, and then I'm gonna say background dash size will just be contain. And then I'm going to set a height, let's just do 40 pixels, and a width of 40 pixels. So now you can start following along with these values here. And then here, let's make a cursor pointer. Let's do position absolutes. Let's do top value 0, right 0. And then I'm going to transform. So if I say right now, it's like this. So I'm going to transform translate and just regular translates, and I'm just gonna do minus 50%, comma 25%, and that centers it how I like it there. So again, if you didn't have this custom SVG I created, just use the regular bars, and they can position it accordingly, and then you can change these values based off of the size of your navbar, and plus, like if you wanted it to be higher, like here, or lower, you can do it like that, higher, etc. So again, feel free to customize that. And then in terms of the navbar, it looks like we're pretty much got majority of it. We just need to create the functions on there. But let's actually hold off on that because I want to actually create the hero section first, and then after that we can go back and add the drop down menu. But for now, let's just keep it like this. And now let's go ahead and let's go and create the hero section. This is the one that's essentially the image slider. This is probably the most complicated section out of this entire website. But let's go ahead and just create this right now. So let's go components, new file. I just call this hero. Again, you can rename this to whatever you'd like. You can just go ahead and do RAFCE, press tab, and then we have the hero section. So I'm going to say hero, let's do H1 first. Hero, save it here. And let's go to app.js and let's pass in the hero. So save, let's do control space, make sure we imported this. We check, yeah, imports. And we have it here. So technically, there's no styling, so it's probably like, if I comment this out, you probably could see it. Yeah, so here, so it's there, you just can't see it right now. So let's go to the navbar really quick, and let's go to hero. And here is where the fun begins. So let's go and import styled from, I'm gonna say styled dash components. And eventually we're gonna add the CSS, so let's just do it here. For now, let's do macro slash macro. And then also we can go here and let's do curly brace CSS here. And then also what I'm gonna do is, actually we'll add these later. For now, we'll just start styling stuff. So here, let's just say const hero section equal to style.section, double backticks. And let's just do Let's set the heights to 100 viewport heights. I want to make the max heights just to make sure it doesn't go crazy. Just be 100 and 1100 pixels. And let's set the position to be relative. And I want to make sure overflow is hidden as well. So now what we can do is actually go here now, and I can hold Command D and just delete that and select it both and just say hero section, just like that. So if I save this now, save it, technically it's still not going to show anything because we didn't actually create anything yet. So actually I'm going to have the wrapper next. So let's just say const hero wrapper equal to style.div with the double backticks. And this is just going to wrap it. So I'm going to say width 100%. Heights will be 100%. Display will be flex. Justify content will be center. Align items will be centered. Overflow, we can let's set that to hidden here, and then position relative. So save that again. It's gonna give me an error. Let me see. Let's do. Yeah, it should have. It's not giving me an error. Not sure why. Well, let's do this. Let's do hero wrapper. Let's just wrap this text we have here, and there we go. Okay, so now it's nice and centered. So the next thing we're gonna do is have the slide, and then pretty much this is where it gets more, I say, complicated. So first thing is we need to create the slide data. So go here to data, new file. And again, if you have a different way of creating data, feel free to do it. But I just separated everything so it's easier for you to follow along. So I just call it slider data.js. And then in the slider data, this is where I have essentially all the data. So I'll say export const slider data equal to an array, and then curly braces, and then here I'm gonna pass in title. I just put luxury villa in Bali, Indonesia, and then here price. I just put, again, I just made these up, so I just put 4, 280, 000, and then path. So this is just like the location where you want it to go. So I'll just say /to homes. Label would just be view home, and then here the image. I'm actually going to import images, and I'll show you where I got mine as well. Let's say image 1. Not that. What happened? Okay, image 1, and then alts would just be. I'll just put house for now. So this is essentially one object with data, and that's essentially one slide. So you can just basically do the same exact thing, copy it again. But to save some time, I'm actually going to go ahead and just copy in my data, just because you could just straight up copy and paste this. So let me actually show you what you could do. You could just go like this and paste this X amount of times, and then just change it like that, and then update these manually. But since I already have mine out, just to save you, take like 5 minutes for me to do it manually, so I just go in and paste mine in. So go like this and paste it. And I also have a second data file I created, which is basically the same exact thing. It's just showing different things. So if you ever wanted to recreate the same component and then pass in data to another page, then this is the way I did it. At least you can do this way or find another way that you might think is easier. But essentially this is just like for another page, right? So we're gonna ignore this data file for majority of the design. This is just extra at the end. The main focus is all this right here. So you're probably wondering, like, what are these image names? So we actually have to, let me show you where I got my images first. So I'll say it real quick. Let me show you real quick here. So here is one site called unsplash.com. There's also another one called pexels.com. And I just typed in like house, for instance. You just type it in, and I'll just drag it out. And you can change the orientation. So I use landscape. And like you can see here, just click this, go here. I just download medium. Doesn't really matter which one you download, unless you, as long as the quality looks good. But no, the larger the image, obviously you could slow down your your website. But here I just got like this one, and then just scroll through here. Like this one was cool. This one I got too. Just download, and you should, at least you need a minimum of 4 images, or if you want to just download one and then reuse it for every single slide and then figure an image later, you can do that too to save time. But at least you just have something to fill in for the data. So once you get some images downloaded, you can actually drag them over. So let me go ahead and let me bring my images up. So I have quite a lot of images. So let's just drag in the house, the first 4 I have right now. So let me drag these really quick. So here you can see these are the images I got. So 1, 2, 3, and 4. And also when you download it from this site, it's going to be some crazy long name. So just right click and rename it to house-1 or whatever you want to name it. And then you're probably wondering, it's not named the same as what I put here. So you just go in, and at the top you just import it. So I just say here, let me see. You just say import the name you called it. So I call this image 1. If you want to call this, Tacos Tuesday, like you name this literally whatever you want to. It doesn't matter. But image 1 is just easy to follow. You say from / images / and it already auto shows for me is house 1. And I can do shift alt down arrow 3 times. Change this to house 2, house 3, house 4. And then here, just go up, it's going to be image 2, image 3, and then image 4. So I'll save this now. And these images, I use different ones, but I'll drag those in later. For now, this is what we need necessary right here, these 4. So now, if I just go back to the hero, go here, we can just map through this. So let's go here, erase this H1, and go back to the site, close this out. Here, can't even click today. Okay, here, and then basically the same thing we did as Navbar, almost identical. So we're gonna say curly brace. I'm gonna say slides.map, parenthesis, arrow function, curly brace here. And then in the parenthesis, we're gonna pass the values slide and index. So I just call it these. You can name this whatever you want to. And then I just basically, since I did curly brace here, let me just show you another way. You can say return parentheses. And the only reason I'm saying it's because I have curly braces instead of parentheses. And then here I want to return hero slide. It's going to have a key equal to index. And then I'll close it out. And then in the hero slide, I want to actually showcase some content. So let's do this. Let's do hero slider. And then in here, we'll have the hero image. And again, these are just what I named it. Feel free to change it up. And then we'll have the hero content. So actually, this should just be a self-closing tag. So let me do that. Hero image, self-closing. And then under hero image, we'll have hero content. And then in this hero content, we're going to have an H1. So H1 is going to just be slide.title, which is the value we added. So let me actually, let's create these subcomponents first because I want to be able to see this while we post it. So let's just go here. Let's do const, and let's see. We got hero wrapper, I believe, or hero slide. Yeah, so hero slide equals to style.div double backticks. Let's do slider hero image hero content. So let's go here, hero, slider. Let's do hero image, and then let's do hero content. Image should be image tag, and we'll update these in a second. And the last thing is slide. So right now, the way I'm passing this in is I'm basically destructuring this value slide. So this is kind of like props.slides. Whatever that you put in. But for this, since I'm destructuring it, I'm just gonna say slides. Yeah, if I say this now, it's probably, let's see if it still shows the error because it's saying it's undefined. So in order to read this, because it's like it's mapping through something, it doesn't know what it is though. So what we can do is we can go to our app.js, and we're gonna shift this stuff to pages in a second, but let's just go here to the hero, and let's tell it what in the world is slides. So slides is just what I called it. And we're gonna pass in the curly braces, and it needs to know what data to look through. So the data that we created called slider data here is this literal world slider data. If you want to get this data, you say slider data 2. So here I just say slider data. Auto import slider data from data slider. So I save it, and this should display. So right now it's saying image 7567. So let's just comment this out for now since we're not going to use it yet. So just go here and just do command / comment it out, and now we got our data. So you can see here it is nice mapped up here. It's currently displaying. So let's go under here. So for the H1, let's do a p tag. Let's just put this as slide.price. And then under here, let's see, save it now. And then also we have button. So let's do button. To path is going to be slide.path. And then primary equals to true. And then also let's close this out really quick. And then inside of the button, I'm going to do curly brace slide.label. Save it. It's going to say button not defined. So let me go here, control space, enter, to see if it imported it like it did. Let me do command B to close the left side really quick. And then right now, the button is a little wider than I want it to be. So I'm going to actually add this custom CSS on the button itself instead of going to like the button component and then changing it up, because if you have like just one little thing you want to add, but you don't want to go through and like mess up all your logic for your stock component, you can just go here and just say CSS equal to curly brace, backtick, and then just pass in the value. So I just want to make sure the max width is only 160 pixels. So I'll save it, and now you can see that only these buttons here. So pretty much the last thing I want to add is an arrow. So let's go here under the slide and just say arrow, and then let's close it. So right now this is going to be an error because it doesn't know what arrow is. So let's actually go here and just create this. So this is actually, I renamed a React icon this. So here, what we can say is, let's just go and call this one shift alt down arrow again. This is going to actually be parentheses. It's going to say IOMD arrow round forward. And then I'm just going to call this what I named it below, which is just arrow. So here, again, this is similar to React icons that we did. But basically here, let's go here, and then I'm going to just import this. So imports, curly brace, IOMD arrow round forward. It's going to be from react-icons/io. So we'll save it here. And now you can see we have the icon here. So again, if you're confused, this is just a React icon, just like we did earlier with the bars. This is the same concept, just a different one. And also I want to import these two. So let's say import. These are just my forward and back arrows. I originally created custom design arrows on Figma, but this way is just so much easier. So I'll just do it this way. But let's just do IO arrow forward and then IO arrow back. Be from react-icon/io5. So again, this one's a similar IO, except this one only works if you do IO5. And then let's create these at the bottom really quick. So let's see, we're going to put these at near the on the bottom under a different div. So actually, I'll say this right now, and technically you can't see anything, but this is essentially the data, the slides, right? Like this content here. So underneath this last curly brace before the hero wrapper, I want to create another div, just called this slider buttons. Make sure to spell everything right. And then we'll just call this previous arrow. And then I'll just shift down here and call this next arrow. And that's pretty much the styles for that. Now I just gotta add these in because right now it's gonna be like, what is this? So let's go here. And let's start these first because technically you can't really see anything. So let's do this. Let's create the similar value where I said the like the nav link earlier where I created a similar style. So I'll say const arrow buttons equals to CSS double backticks. Let's set the width to 50 pixels, height 50 pixels, color, hashtag FF, cursor pointer. Let's do background. Let's do hashtag 000D1A, and then border dash radius. Put 50 pixels. I want these to be rounded. Padding will be 10 pixels. Let's do margin dash right, so there's some spacing of 1 rem. User select. Sometimes if you click like really fast, it selects. So I want to make sure that's off. And then transition 0.3s. Then also just have a little hover effect. So go and hover. It scrolls up. The background, we'll just put it at CD853F. And then we'll just scale it really quick. So transform, scale, and just make it 1.05. Save it here. And then let's just do the previous and next arrow buttons. So let's just say const previous arrow equals to styled of IO arrow back, double backticks, pass in $, curly brace, the styles arrow buttons. And then we can just paste this. So copy, paste, change this to next, and save. And then the last thing we need to do is create the slider button. So let's bring this, let's do this above here. Let's just say const slider buttons equals to style.div, double backticks, position is absolutes, bottom is 50 pixels, right is 50 pixels, we'll just say display flex, and then z index would just be 10. So save it, and now we got our button. So it looks like, let's see, slider button defined, it should be. The issue is I put the back twice, so that's what I call it. Yeah, forward. So let's change this next arrow, make sure we put it to forward, and there we go. We hover effect, there we go. So these are basically stuck in this position. So again, if you want to refactor the code and like style it differently, feel free. But the thing now we need to do is actually fix this, because this is not what you want for the slider, right? So the first thing is, let's see what we need to add for the image. So for the image, I just did this. So let's go here, image. I just put src equal to curly brace slide.image, and then I just put the alt, same thing, slide.alt. And then let's just save this really quick. So now we got our crazy images. So now it's just insane, right? So the thing is, what I want to do is I want to show you this function. So we have to create a function actually for this to work. Let's add the styles first, and then we can add the functionality of these sliders. So first thing is, we got the hero slide. So let's do this. Let's go here. Let me press enter so you can see it better. And then I go in here, and I'll just say z index, let's put 1, width, it should be 100%, heights 100%, save it there, and then hero slider, let's go in here. Let's make sure you have it spelled right. Let's just do position absolutes. Let's do top 0, left is 0, width is 100%, and then let's do height is 100%. Display flex, align items, center, and just like content center. So right now it's like, it's still technically, it's like this, but you can't really see much. So over here, image, let's go here. And let's see, what should I add for the hero image? Let's just do this. Position, absolute. So the top be 0. Let's set the left to be 0. Let's set the width, 100 viewport width. Height, 100 viewport height. And object dash fit. And this is just a little trick I found to, this is like when you zoom, when you shrink it. So like, go like this, and like, it looks nice and clean. Because if you don't have this code, like if I go here, just close it out. See how ugly the picture looks? So this took me a really long time to figure this one line code, because there's normal way when you pass it in as like a background image, but it's a pain when you're doing sliders to do that. So I just did it like this. It looks way cleaner in my opinion, but again, feel free to refactor that if you don't like it. And for here, let's do, for the hero content, let's do this. Because I believe I have, yeah, we have hero slider I added. Oh yeah, one thing I want to do too, let me show you really quick before I add the hero content. I'm going to do and colon before curly brace. And I'm basically just set an overlay over it. So there's content, just make sure it's empty. And then let's say position absolute. Let's do Z. Why is it red? Position. Let's just type this out first. Let's see here. It goes away to. Oh yeah, that's why. Comma. Here. And then let's set the width to be 100%. Let's set the height to 100 viewport height. Bottom, that should be 0 viewport height. Left 0, and then overflow. Hidden opacity 0.4, and here's where essentially the little background overlay. So here, linear gradient, inside linear gradient is 0 degrees. RGBA, just put parentheses 0, 0, 0, 0.2, and this will be should be 0%, and then a comma, and I can just copy this 2 times. So just copy this RGBA. And after the comma, just paste 1, change this to 50%, keep the 0.2, should be 50%, and then paste again, and this should just be 100%, and let's do 0.6. So I'll save it here, and you can see it like kind of added like a little fade. Again, there's multiple ways to add this little overlay, but this is just the way I have it. That's the way I like it too. And then we can actually go back to our, let's open Command B, let's go back to our navbar now. Let's get rid of this red background. I don't like it, so let's go like this. There we go, nice and clean. And let's go back to hero. And then lastly, let's add the hero content because we can't see it. So here I'm gonna say position relative, and then let's say Z index would just be 10. Display is flex. Flex direction is column. Max dash width is, let's just put 1600 pixels, and then I'm at the width, I'm just going to calculate this to be 100% minus 100 pixels, and then I'll just have the color to hashtag FFF, which is white. Now you can see we have our content. So still again, buttons don't do anything, but we got this here. So last thing is in the hero content, let's just add the H1. And let's just add some styling to this one and the P tag. So here, font size. And this is a cool way to make it responsive. So you do clamp and then do 1 rem, comma, 8 viewport width, comma, 2 rem. And essentially the first value is the smallest size of the font you want it to be. The second, the 8 viewport width, you can go and range it up to whatever you like to, but essentially the smaller it is, the smaller the size of the font is based off your screen. And then the larger it is, the larger your font starts off. And then the last value is basically the size, the biggest size you want your font to be. So like if I save this right now, you can see it's like this, right? So if I go here, then I shrink it, you can't really tell because it's essentially like it's huge, right? But if I go back now and go like this, now you can see it's like it's massive, right? and then when I shrink it, it's nice and responsive. So that's just how clamp works, and you can check it out on MDM docs too, more details. Font weight, I want this thing to be thin, so let's do 400, and let's do text transform. Let's do uppercase. Let's do text shadow. Say 0 pixels, 0 pixels, 20 pixels, RGBA, 0, 0, 0, 0.4. Text dash align. Let's do left. And then let's just do margin dash bottom to be 0.8 rem. So I've got some spacing here, and then for the P tag, let's do margin dash bottom, and let's do 1.2 rem. And text shadow, let's just copy this text shadow here, and we can save it. So for majority of this, like the design wise, is basically good to go. Now the next step is actually implementing the slider functionality. So now let's create the function to make the slider work. So here, let's just drag this over, and let's go to the top. So we're gonna need to pass in use state, and also let's see, we have use ref as well. So let's just do that really quick. At the top, let's do use state, and then I'll pass in use ref. And then we can go, let me do command B, scroll down to, let's see, I think one thing is, looks like the arrow. Did I not style the arrow? Oh yeah, I forgot to style the arrow. So let me add really quick, because it's touching my home text. Let's just say margin dash left 0.5 rem. Okay, yeah, so now nice arrow spacing. So now we can go here, and then we're gonna write all of our functions inside this first curly brace right above the return. So here, and let's go ahead and create the state and the function. So first off, if you've done or used use state hook before, then you already know, but basically you say const and then the array, and basically the first value is what you're calling your initial state. So I'm just gonna call this one current, and then the next value is a function that updates your state. So you always say set and then whatever you named it, so it's current here, and I'm gonna say equal to use state, and then set equal to 0. And then what I'm gonna do is say const length equal to, and it's gonna look at the slides, the data, and it's gonna just check the length. So I'm just shorthanding and naming it, just calling it length for short. And this way I can actually look in our data to make sure that it doesn't go past the total amount of images, aka the slides that we have. Also, one thing too, I'm gonna say const timeout equal to use ref, and we're just gonna pass in the value of null. So now what I want to do, let's create our first function. So again, this is just one way I did the image slider. Feel free to utilize whatever method that you're aware of, or refactor this if you have a better idea of creating this. But I'm just going to say const, and I'm just going to say next slide, and say equal to an arrow function. And then here, what we're going to do is we're essentially going to say set current. And what current is going to look at the current image slider. And so I'm going to say current, if it's equal to length minus 1, then I want to return the first value in our data. Else, I want you to increment or essentially add to that value by saying current plus 1. So think of it like when you start off at 0, and then the next button you want it plus 1. So then the next button will be plus 2, plus 3, etc. And then I'll console.log this too, so you'll be able to see this. So it's like console.log current. And then what I can do actually is add this onto the, let's see, the next slide, or next arrow button. So let's go here. Next arrow, let's just say on click equal to this next slide function we just created. So let's save it right now, and let's see if the console shows. So you can see currently it's at 0. Let me go back here. So now if I go and click it again, it's going to increment it by 1, 2, 3, and then it's going to reset back to 0. So it's checking here if we've reached the max length, which arrays they start at 0, so it'd be 0, 1, 2, 3. So it's basically checking length minus 1, so 4 minus 1, 3, and then basically it's going to reset to 0, else it's going to do add 1. So again, I can just infinitely, it's basically like, I think it's like a like addition, like a plus sign. And then basically the previous one, this is a very similar concept where you just say const prev slide, I'll just call that the function name, equals to an arrow function, and then I'm going to say set current to check current. If it's equal to 0, then I want to return the length minus 1. So now it's going backwards. Else, I want to return current minus 1. So here we can actually, I think it should actually log. Well, let's just do this too. Console log current here just to make sure. And then I'll add this on here. On the previous arrow, I'm going to say on click equals to prev arrow. I'll save it here. And it looks like prev, no, my bad, not prev slide. Save it here. And what is, it should have an error. Let's see. Yeah, okay. Let me drag this out quick. Yeah, it looks fine. Okay, so now if I click 0, and then it should say 3, 2, 1, 0. And then just rinse and repeat. It's basically counting backwards. And then if I click the next button, it's going to go like that. See? 3. And it's going to reset. Because look like here. So let's see. Let's go to 1. Then it should be 0, 1, 2, 3. You get the point. It's basically like a plus minus button. So here, I'll just comment these out just so we'll have them here. And now you're probably wondering, why doesn't the image change? So let's see, let's do this. Let's go to the hero slide underneath this one. Yeah, hero slide. Let's do curly braces. And I want to check the index. If it's equal to the currents, then I want to, this is a short like hand where you can just do a double and it basically just returns if it's true. Then I'll just say parentheses. And I just want to pass this in this entire hero slider command X and then go in. And if I save it, it's probably going to see if it gives me an error. It doesn't look like it. Okay, so here, let's see if it changes. So now, just by default, it's technically working now. See that? So you got like this, and then backwards. You get the point, and just do this infinitely amount of times. But the thing is, what we want to do as well is also check to make sure. This is just a function output if it's not equal to array dot is array for the slides, or slides dot length is less than or equal to 0, then just return null. So basically just saying like if there's no data, then it shouldn't work. And it shouldn't work either way, but we'll just have that there just in case. And then what I want to do is create a use effect. So let's go here. And use effect, this is essentially the way that I created the automated slider. Again, this is just one method. There's so many ways to do this, but here I'll just say use effect. And they'll just pass in the arrow function here. And then also I want to pass in the little array. And I'm going to look for the current, and also I'm going to look for the length for the dependencies here. And then what I'm going to say is basically const next slide. And since it's automated, I only need it to go one direction pretty much. So I'm only going to check or run the next slide function here. I'm going to set it equal to an arrow function. And basically, we're just going to say set current to the current value with arrow function here. And then I'm going to do parentheses and just pass in the logic. So current equals to length minus 1, then return 0, else return current plus 1. And now under here, we have the timeout. So I'm going to say timeout.current. So this is making sure it's checking which value we're on. I'm going to set it equal to set timeout. So this is how we automate it. And then I say next slide. So it's going to run the next slide function now. Kind of like think of like these like a timer. And then basically I'll run one every 3 seconds. So you can change this to 1000 or 2000, doesn't matter. You want it faster, lower the number, slower, increase this number. And then make sure you want to return this function here. And then I'm just going to say if timeout.current, that's true, then we just want to clear this timeout. So we'll say clear timeout of timeout.current. Now you want to check out more docs on set timeout, clear timeout, feel free to check it out. But save this right now. It's currently going to run an error. It's going to say use effects not defined. So let's go up here to the top. And let's just say use effect. Save it. And then technically it's not working right now. Or now it is. Okay, now you can see. So it looks like it's working fine. But one thing also I want to check is I want to pass these values into, because like right now if I click it, it looks like it's working fine. Like no issues. Let's see. Let's actually do this slower because it's like right now it's just taking too long. So here you can see that it's basically going super fast, and then we can go forward and it's still like I'm not touching it, it's still working, and it's still working here, and then also back and go like this, and then command C. Let's check the console, make sure there's no errors. And also I just want to make sure everything's working properly. So I'm going to copy this if timeout current. I'll just pass these in just because it's running at the same time. So I'm going to pass these in to check. So if timeout current, then basically clear the timer. And so far that's basically how I created the slider. So feel free to refactor this or use this for your own method and then change up the code. But you can see here now it's basically, I can click it, change it, and it automatically does it myself. Also, if I want to go back, I want to change it to, it works just like that. So now, what I'm going to do is actually comment this out because it's going to be annoying to stare at this. So here, use effect, just comment it out and save it. And then now you can see, like normally, it's just working like this. So that is the hero image slider. So let's do the drop down menu now, since we're already on this section. Let's go and let's go here, close this out. Let's go in new components, new file, and let's call this dropdown.js. Now again, this you can call this mobile menu, feel free to change it, or sidebar if you want it coming from the side. But let's just do RAFCE, and then in the dropdown, I'm just gonna go in and just do typical stock components. So let's say import styled from stock components, and then let's just start writing our stock components out. So here I'm gonna do is say const, I'll just call this dropdown container equal to just style dot, just call it div for now, and let's just say position, do fixed, and z index, let's do 999, and let's set the width to 100%, height 100%, background is going to be hashtag CD853F, display is going to be grid, align items, center, misspelled that. Oh my goodness, what's going on here? Get rid of this. Say top 0, left 0, transition will just be 0.3s, ease in, outs, And then opacity, let's just set this to 1 for now so you can see it. And let's set the top to 0 for now. So then if I go, let's just pass this in. So let's go here, say drop down container, drop down container. So technically, let's just put like a filler here. So right now it's not showing because it's just not anywhere. So what we can do is just go to app.js, just pass it in here really quick. Let's say drop down. Make sure it's auto imports, should have auto imported. Yeah, so right now it's technically this is what we just created, right? So now let me create the data file first because technically, well actually I think I just hard code these in because it's just easier. Actually no, I added this. This is just a menu data, my bad, what am I saying? This is literally the same as the menu data. So technically what we could do is we can go here. Let's add the rest of the styles first and then we'll display the menu data second. So now I have an icon, which is basically the X icon. So I'll just call this icon. And then it's gonna be the close icon is what I call this one. Then here under this icon, we can just say drop down wrapper. And then I'll say drop down menu. And this is here where we essentially we map through the data. So I'm gonna say curly brace, menu data. So mine auto shows, so I can just say import it. And again, this is the same exact data from the Navbar. So because we're just reusing it. If you had a multiple menu item, then obviously you could create another data file, but here it's the same. So I can just menu data.map and then just pass in the arrow function like usual. And then pass in the values, so item, index, what I called it. And then here we can just say drop down link 2 equals to item dot link, key equals to index, and then we'll just do item dot title. And then underneath this drop down menu, we're gonna have the, we can't be this, you see it. We'll just have a btn wrap again, and then we'll just pass in the button component. So now you can see like how easy it is to just add buttons if you have your own components. Make sure the primary is true, round, ROU, and D equals to true. So I'm just showing you that this one's like a rounded button. I also have the big to true, so the font's big. And then equals to / contact. Close it out, and then just put contact us. So that pretty much finishes the style component part. So now we're just gonna add them here. So let's do this. Say cons icon equals to styled, and this is actually just, I think it should be my div here. So let's say dot div backticks. Then let's do shift alt down arrow C, close icon 2, 3, 4, and 5. So here let's just say this one will be close icon. This is just going to be the X, so I'll just change this to FA times. We'll import that in a second. For this, let's see, drop down wrapper. I didn't style this at all, so let's just put drop down wrapper. You technically could just leave it as a div, but I just did it so you can actually, the naming is easier to understand. Then we also have, let's see, drop down menu. And what else we got? Drop down link. So let's click here. Let's do drop down link. And it'll just be a link. And then just button wrap would just be a div. So let's go here. btn wrap. So I'll save that now. I was gonna say link and FA times is not defined. So let's do this. Let's do imports linked from React router DOM. Then let's do import curly brace, let's see, FA times from React dash icon / FA. So let's save it now. And now it's just showing us this. It's saying icon not defined. I don't know why it's saying that. Here we go. So now we can just start styling this. So for the icon, let's do this. Let's go here. let's do position absolutes. Let's do top 1.2 rem. Let's do right 1.5 rem. Let's do background transparent. Let's set the font size. Let's do 2 rem. Cursor pointer outline. Let's just do none. So just position up there. And then the close icon. Yeah, let's just do color. So let's go here. Color hashtag 000 D1A. It's almost the same. You can't really tell, or at least on my computer. And then drop down wrapper. Here, let's go. And let's see. This one actually, yeah, this one's nothing. Just leave it empty. This will do backticks. Okay. And then drop down menu. Let's do display grid. Grid template columns 1FR. Grid templates rows repeat. Then we'll just do 4,8 pixels. I'll make sure everything's aligned. So text aligned center with margin dash bottom 4 rem. And then the most important is the drop down links. So let me add that first, and then we'll add like a media query on the drop down menu. So let's display flex these now. And then let's do color first, hashtag FF. So I'm not sure why is it not showing. Okay, let's do this. Let's do flex align items center. Justify content center. Looks like it's not showing. Drop down link. So I must clearly see that there. Yeah, did it again. The curly brace should be parentheses. Good thing I can catch it now. Let's see here. The reason I noticed it because it's like semicolon shouldn't be there. So now if I save it, it should show. Okay, there we go. Awesome. Now let's go after color. Let's do font size 1.5 rem. Text decoration will just be none. List style will be none. Color will be hashtag FFF. Cursor will be pointer, and transition will be 0.2s ease in out. So it looks all right, and then I'll just set a hover. So colon hover color, and it should be hashtag 000 D1A. So now we got like a little hover action, and then we can do is let's go here and just add media screen, and just do max width 760 pixels, and I just want to shrink these columns on smaller screens. Okay, this is not necessary, but I just like this design. So like 80 to 60. So you can see it's like that. And I think, yeah, this shouldn't be 760, it should be 480. And then we just need to style this button wrapped, and we should be good. So let's do display flex, just like content center. So that's pretty much it in terms of styling. So now what we need to do is actually create the function to showcase this on the page. So what we're gonna do is we're actually gonna pass these values in. So let's do this. Let's go to the app.js, because I'm gonna put this like globally on our app. So let's see. So command B app.js. Let's import use state. So curly brace use state. And also there's another thing. Oh, well, actually, yeah, we'll keep that for now. So just do use state for now. And then the function app. So I'm gonna say const, and the array brackets say is open. This is my first value. I'm just gonna call it, and then I'm gonna say set is open. So that equal to use state of false. So it's not open yet. And then pretty much I'm gonna say const toggle equals to arrow function is gonna say set is open to the opposite of is opened. And that's pretty much the function. And all we need to do now is just pass these values into the navbar and dropdown. So here I just say, for the navbar, I'm gonna say toggle equals to toggle. And then I have to add that on the component too. And then also for the dropdown, I'm gonna say is open equal to is open. So this is basically just looking if the value exists. Then also toggle equals to toggle. So now nothing yet works because we need to go to, first we need to go to the navbar, and let's pass this in. So we go down to the bottom of the navbar, and let's just go scrolling to the bars. So I want the bars to have, when I click on it, I want it to trigger that toggle function that we created. And then I just basically have to destructure this and just say curly brace toggle so that I can see the value. And then also we need to go to drop down now. And then we just got to pass in the structure we passed in. In case you're like super lost, we passed in is open and toggle. So now we have to destructure that in here. So I'm gonna say is open and toggle because it needs to know like what the value actually are. And then when we go to the icons, because now we have to close it, we can go drop down container, check if is opens there, and then also check on click. I want to set equal to toggle. So this is way so that if you click like anywhere besides the X, it triggers it. And then also the icon, I'll just set on click equals to toggle as well, and I'll save it here. So now if I click it now, technically it's not going to work. And you're probably wondering, well, what do we do now? Because everything is essentially there. The last thing is we need to have this stock component properties added so that it can actually change it. Because right now, if I change this to 0, now you can see it. So what we're gonna do the same thing we did with the buttons. $, curly brace, parenthesis, curly brace. And then I'm gonna say is open. Outside the curly brace, outside the parenthesis, before the last curly brace, do arrow function. Parenthesis, I'm gonna say is open, ternary operator, so question mark, if it's true, set the opacity to 1. Let me get rid of this. Else set the opacity to 0. And then I can just copy this, paste this by the top, and then just change this value to, if it's true, to be 0, else it to be minus 100%. So if I save this now, we can see that currently is showing. So I close it, open it, click here, close it again, click there, opens it, closes it. You get the point. It's working now. So that's perfect. So we can check the console too, just to make sure there's no errors. It's saying use effect is defined and drop down. Let's see. Did I not change this to parentheses? Let's refresh, make sure. Yeah, so that's just gonna be there because the automatic image sliding, I had to turn it off with the use effect. So this is gonna be there until you comment that out. But so it looks like we're good to go. Everything is set for now. So now let's create the next section. So this one, I just called this info section. You can name this whatever you want to. So let's go to the components and let's just say info, make sure I capitalize this, info section .js. You can name this content, I mean, it doesn't matter, but here basically you do RAFCE, press tab, and just put h1 info, it doesn't matter, just put in filter text. And then we can just pass this in to, so what actually we'll do is, yeah, let's pass this in here and then we'll refactor this to fit the pages section. But right now I'm just doing this until we finish the design, and at the end we can change this up. So like we'll just do here, info section right under the hero, and then just sub closing, and it's right there. Also make sure you import it if it didn't automatically import for you. And then here we just pretty much do the normal where we style everything. So let's go info section here, and then I'll just go say import styled from style components, and then basically we just create the section. So the first thing, I just have a section, so the const section equal to style.section, double backticks. Also, we'll have a container. So let's just change this to div. Let's just do container. And then the next one we'll have, I'll call this one column left. And then also we're gonna have, let's write those actually in first, and then I'll fill these out. So let's go here. Let's just say section container column left. Again, I'm just naming it just so you know visually like what this is. Again, you can change this after, but this is gonna be like the left, essentially the left column starting off. But then we can change the other two. So the naming might be better if you changed it to something else. But for now, this first section I'll just call these column left and right. And then in the right column, well, actually let's go to the left column first. In the left column, we'll just have H1. And we're gonna create data. So for now, let's just say heading. And then actually I shouldn't do this. Under H1, let's do p tag. And let's just call this paragraph for now. It doesn't matter, I'll change it later. So 2 paragraphs and then a button. So let's see, button. Actually, yeah, it should be like this. And this should have a 2 value. So let's say 2 slash, just put homes. And then this will just be button label. So just put label for now. And then in the column right, basically just be an image. So let's say image. And then technically there's no src yet, so we'll just leave it there. Alt, I'll just set it to home, and just add the sub closing tag. And then let's just add these in really quick. So we got column left, column right. So let's change this. Column left, column right, and the buttons should be imported, so it should have any errors. Okay, perfect. So now all we need to do is let's create this data file. So I made a separate one just for this. So like here, let's go to data, new, click here, new file, and let's just call this one info data.js. And then let's just do export const info data equal to the array. Oh, actually no, these aren't going to be an array. These should be objects. It's going to be an object. And then I'll just say heading. I'll just say explore our beautiful homes. And then I have this, I'll just call this one paragraph 1. And cool little trick too. So let me see if it does it. Let's do lorem 20, see if it works here. Yeah, so if you auto type it, it does it like that. So technically what I did, I just did lorem 30. And then, well actually, yeah, it should be lorem 30. And then I basically wrapped it in quotes. So that way you don't have to sit there and type, you know, like this massive paragraph. And then I just said paragraph 2. And then I just basically like just cut off some of this. So like if you can get this, hold on. Next here. Again, it doesn't matter, you guys can play around with this. Or you could just do this to see if it, yeah, I need to take out the quotes. Let's just do this. Command Z. And let's just delete, I'm gonna delete this because I want this to be shorter. So I want it to be lorem 20. Now I'll just put the quotes again. Then this one can be, it's gonna be like lorem 15. A little shorter. And then I'll just put some quotes after that. And then put a quote here. Again, I'm just being like super specific. It doesn't really matter here. But and then we can have like button label. Just call this view homes. And then we can do image, let's say image 1, which I'll import in a second. Oh, what happened? Image 1. And then also we'll have reverse, which would be false. And that's just basically if the image is on the left or on the right. This is just what I put here. And also we'll have animations eventually too. So like you can pass in animation values here. So that way you don't have to like, if you want to change different sections based off of like one has a delay that's longer than the other, this is what I did here. And then pretty much we can just like copy and paste this. So I say this now really quick. Looks like this. So we can just like copy this, paste it, and let's say info data 2. And then I can change this one to, see, oh, hold on. Erase this and just say modern designs. And then, I mean, we can decrease some of this stuff. It doesn't really matter. Or let's just go like this. Okay, don't do that. We erase this and then just a couple words here. Looks fine. And this would just be image 2. And then this one, reverse, would just be true. And then I'm gonna set the delay to, just wants to be a little slower, just delay 300. And then pretty much it. All we need to do now is import these images. So here, again, I have other images I've already downloaded. So feel free to go in and download additional images off of those websites I showed earlier, such as Unsplash, Pixabay is one of them, or Pexels too. So I'll just say import image 1 from / images / interior -1.jpg, and then I'm gonna go down again. We'll just say images / let's just say house. And this is, I put this one's 5 and image 2. So let me say that really quick, and then I'm gonna go ahead and bring up my images again, and I'll just drag in the rest. So I have, let's see, which ones do I even have right now? Yeah, so I just have the bars and houses 1 through 4. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually just going to drag in, here, let's drag in house 5 and interior 1. Let's bring it over here. So these are just my other images. Like this is another house. And these are verticals actually. So make sure if you download and you want to copy the design, download vertical images, because if you do like these, the layout might not look the same and it could mess it up if you don't have the right dimensions. But yeah, that's pretty much good for there. So now let's go to info section and let's go and add in this to our file. So let's go here, and pretty much in terms of let's do this. Let's go in and let's make sure, because I want to pass in these data values first. So here, this is what I'm going to do. Let's do this. Let's make sure the data file is working. Let's go say heading. And then also paragraph. The p tag will just be, I'll put this one as paragraph 1. And then this one will be paragraph 2. And then the label will just be button label. And then the src would just be, go here, just put it at image. And then the last thing I want to do is add a reverse on column right. So here, reverse equal to reverse. So now I just have to destructure this. So curly brace here. So we got the heading, we got paragraph 1, paragraph 2, and then let's see, button label. Actually, it should be label like this, and then we got reverse and then image. And then once we have the animations, I'll show you the other stuff too. But I'm gonna save this now, and it's not working because we need to go to the app.js now. For info section, I'm just gonna pass in, so curly brace ... and then I'm gonna pass in the values from our data file. So this one's actually gonna be, let's make sure, what did I name this? Info section, info data. So there's info data. So let's say info data. Press enter, auto imports, saves it. Now we got our nice info data here. So you can see it looks like that. It's pretty crazy looking. So now we can just style this up. So let's go here and just add in our style. So first things first, let's go here. Let's do width 100%. Let's do heights 100%. Let's set the padding 4 rem by 0 rem. Looks like this. For the container, let's go in and create this one. So let's do padding 3 rem top, and then I have this calculation where basically it checks 100 for width. And I want it to span 1300 pixels, and then just divide it by 2. And then let's do a display grid. Then I want to do grid template. Template dash columns. I just want to do 1FR, 1FR, so side by side. And this actually should be, yeah, like that. So not side by side. And then I want to grid template rows and just put 800 pixels here. So now it looks like this. It's pretty crazy, but don't worry, we'll fix this. And then at media screen, and so for tablet max width 768 pixels, I want grid template columns just to be 1FR. So it's essentially like they stack on top. And then column left, so that's currently this is the text right now. I'll just display flex. Then I can do flex direction column, justify content, center, align items. Let's do flex start. Let's do line heights 1.4, and let's do padding 1 rem by 2 rem. It's like this. And then order, this is the last, let me check, yeah. If I put it, yeah, I'll add that in a second. Right now, let's do this. Actually, let's add it right now. Let's do order. And basically, for this one, if $ curly brace, parenthesis curly brace, we're gonna have the value reverse, which we created from the data file. And then we go outside of that, parentheses, and then just do it again, say reverse. If that's true, I want the order to be 2. I also want it to be 1. This is basically just a way to rearrange a grid based off the order. It's kind of like display flex where you reverse it, the order too, but this is the reason grid is how we did it. And then column rights, I'm just gonna say padding 1 rem by 2 rem. And then orders, let's just copy this line so we need it here. Except now we're gonna switch this to be 1 and then 2. And then we'll just say display to be flex. Display content will be centered. Line items will be centered here. So right now it looks, can't really tell anything, but this is what it looks like so far. And then let's do at media screen and max width of 768 pixels. And for mobile, I want to always have the text first and then the image, because if I don't add this code right here, it's gonna be the reverse. So I just want to keep it consistent on smaller screens. So I'll just basically, let's see, just copy this line right here, the one with the 2, and then just save it so we know it's like that. And then inside of the column left, let's go here. So next thing, we got the H1 inside the column left. Do margin bottom, we'll just do 1 rem. Then we can say font size, we'll just do clamp of 1.5 rem. 6 viewport width, comma 2 rem. And then under the H1, we'll have the P tag, and we'll just say margin dash bottom to be 2 rem. So it's like this. And then for the column rights, I have the image, which right now is crazy. And I want to just basically say img, say width 100%, height 100%, then object dash fit is cover, and then at media screen and max dash width 768 pixels. And basically I just want to decrease the size of the image, so I'll do 90% width, and height, we'll do 90% height. So save it here. And for majority of the design is basically done. One thing it looks like is the button doesn't have the styling, so let's make sure. Yeah, let's add some styling to this button because I don't like this current design. So let's just say primary equals to true. It looks like this. There we go. So we drag it out, and it's currently one of our info sections. So we can basically reuse this, and once we reverse it, which I'll do later, we add it again, and you can see it looks like this, and it shrinks, has the image just like that, and then also like there, tablet. And then if I do Command Shift C just to check the console, let's see, user fixtures can be there since that's our automation, but for the most part, pretty much good with this info sections. So that completes the first part of the tutorial. So if you do want to get access to the rest of the content as well as the exact source code I used to create this website, then make sure you go in the description below so you can get access to that. And note you will get priority support from me as well as any future updates I make to the design. And I'll show you again all the animations, the scrolling, the routing to different pages, and pretty much anything else I decide to add to this design. And aside from that, if you have any questions, make sure to comment them down below or just reach out to me directly and I'll be able to answer them as soon as possible.